Hello, everyone, and welcome to WKDW 97.5 FM, Real Community Radio. We're coming out of Northport, Florida, and this is my show. I am Marie LaBrasse. My show is Sleuthing Eye-Opening Tales of the Past, and I always bring on a co-host with me, a guest, when we do this series on the history of the city of Northport. And it's the timeline, and Joan and Ed Morgan, along with others, have put together this timeline. And if you see anything that isn't correct or should be added to it, please let us know. And on the bottom of the page, you'll see my information, and then I'll bring up Joan's so you can do that. So here with me today is, again, my co-host, Joan Morgan, who the Morgan Family Center is named after her and her husband, Joan and Ed Morgan. Hello, Joan.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. And what a week we've had, haven't we?
Elsa, Northport got named. It's amazing how they always show the weather map, and they show Venice and Sarasota, and Northport's not on the map usually, even though we have the highest population, even though they're the biggest area. But we got on the map this week, that's for sure, with Elsa.
Yeah, and tell the audience, because this is a listening audience, and this will be safe for posterity. What happened up in the city of Northport this week with Elsa? Elsa was it was a tropical storm, and it became a hurricane out in the Gulf. But because of so much precipitation, it dumped actually 12 inches of rain on the city of Northport. And talk a little bit about the area that got flooded, because a lot of people don't understand about the slough there, the Myahachie.
Yeah, it's called the estates mostly, and a lot of the houses out there are big houses. A lot of them are the horse farms. I mean, it's really kind of cool to be out there and seeing horses running around in that, because you don't really think that of Northport. Luckily, for the good part of this is the fact that supposedly no houses got flooded. Okay, although it came close, but on the other hand, this is the estates. These are 5 to 10 acre lots, and most of the time the house is not right on the road. So therefore, they were built back, even though the roads got flooded, even though a lot of their property got flooded. It did not enter their homes. But it pointed out something that we're trying to point out everything in our history of Northport. It pointed out that even though we're a bigger growing city for these emergencies and that, we need a lot more space. We need a lot more places to meet, because what we had this week because of it is Northport City Commission building, the Northport City Hall. A lot of meetings had to be canceled. Why? Because we had to have the emergency people there, and they should have their own place. We should have an emergency. It would be nice if we could have an emergency center that's ready to go at all points. Instead of you have an emergency, then you have to set up everything in City Hall, and then you've got to cancel all the meetings that would have been there. For a population of 80,000 plus, and for an area of over 100 miles and all this kind of stuff, of acreage and all this kind of stuff, we need more places to meet. And also the Morgan Center had a end all programs they had, because it had to be used as a shelter area for people and animals, not horses, but dogs and cats. So again, thank you everyone involved. Thank you first responders. The first responders of our area, some of them went from duty here down to Surfside, and the condo that unfortunately, sadly, horribly went down, and we're still searching for bodies now, and we're going on 2 weeks. And then they came back home, and now they've had to work over by the Toledo Blade area, out by the Myahachie Environmental Park, and out in that area off of Trapacare. And yeah, there's the floods, and they've been seen on TV day after day after day. They're starting to rescind. We're going in the right direction, but here's the deal. Let's hope we don't have more of these kind of storms coming in, more rain, because right now this land is so super saturated, that any more of these kind of storms and that come in, and it's only July. It's only, not even the middle of July, and we've got a long way to go for hurricane season. So please, everybody, keep your fingers crossed, and let's hope we don't have another one of these situations.
Yeah, and on the screen, in case you want to see what we're talking about, you can go onto our Facebook stream, either on YouTube at WKDW 97.5 FM, or go onto our Facebook page, kdwradio.com, and you can see I'm showing the video of the Reisterstown Tropicare area. Those are streets there that are flooded, and you're able to see all of this underwater. Now, just for our listening audience, remember too, this is considered a slough. My hat, and I should have had Joe Luke, the mayor, actually talk about it, because the water flows down from up by Venice, up in the Nokomis area, down into this area, which then flows down into uh, the Myakka River and into Charlotte Harbor. It's a natural way of doing it, and no matter how much that they dig and do drainage, we're in a low-lying area. Our water comes from all the way up in Georgia underneath with the aquifers, and it flows from the mountains. And if you look at us, we're a peninsula. The state of Florida is a peninsula coming down. So we have canals around here. And when general development developed us, and I cannot imagine the expense that they went to, they put in those canals originally first. That's the first thing that they did for drainage. And you heard the term, would you like to buy some swampland in Florida? Well,
Yes.
that is what you're looking at.
Well, not just for drainage. They wanted to sell, lots that were on the water. And basically, we bought our lot back there in 1972. And let me tell you something. Some of the salesmen weren't exactly forthcoming in the fact if it was full access waterway, which if you take or Tamiami Trail, and if you're on the left side going north from Port Charlotte, and if you're on the left side, that's full access water. And if you go on the right side, then you are going into limited waterways. And as we've said before too, one thing a lot of people don't realize, we have 81 miles to 90 miles of canals in Northport. That's not something that everybody realizes. So they built a lot of them. None of them can be built today. That would not happen today. But they got away with a lot of them. And, it was a big selling point. And then it was $10 down, $10 a month, and have a place in this area. And yeah, up north, people thought we were buying swampland.
Absolutely. And I'm muting myself in case people notice that I have a thunderstorm. We're in Florida and I have a thunderstorm going on. So we may be picking that up. And I apologize for that. Now, Joan, when we left off, it was the year 2007. We're now going into 2008. Do you think, does our audience think that we'll make it through 2 years this year?
We'll make it more than that, but I got to make one more announcement, and I don't know if you even know this, Marie. Marshall Grove, the gentleman that wrote the book Out of the Wilderness, has passed away.
Oh.
Okay, and unfortunately, dementia was unfortunately part of that. I don't know all the causes and everything else, but let me tell you, I worked with him, and he was a real gentleman. And he cared, and he searched for a lot of the answers that we still are searching for, and a lot of the information. And anytime I went to him and said, let's go to this person, I remember we went to Lorena Daly first. She was unfortunately suffering from cancer and died shortly afterwards, but she had all the information of Little League in her brain, and we needed to get it out of there. And then, he'd come to our house. Even we had meetings at our house and bring people over. And he was always very interested in not just getting the information really quickly and getting out of there, but hearing the stories and trying to understand the type of thing. I don't know how much he got for writing the book, but I guarantee you he should have gotten a lot more. He should have gotten a lot more. But anyway, we will be hearing more about that. There's going to be articles on that, and I know they're meeting with his widow tomorrow morning, and there'll be articles on that. But Marshall Grove, he was a good man, and he cared about Northport. So some of this information that we have down on this definitely came right from his book, Out of the Wilderness.
And I know that you can purchase the book at City Hall.
Right, you can purchase the book at City Hall, and you should purchase the book at City Hall, even if you're not going to be one of those, even if you're not a history buff. It's the only one we have in really a book form on Northport. Okay, and we encourage everyone should have it. Everyone should have a copy for their family. So there's a limited number left, so get there and buy them.
Right. And I wanted to have him on my show, but it was too late. I started doing this show in 2015, the end of the year really counted 2016, and he was unavailable at that time. So
we tried when we first started the historic thing. The first thing I wanted to do was get Marshall there. Okay, and at that point in time, he had lost, unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that used to be in his brain. We had a lot of times, I used to ride my bike over to Heron Creek where he had an office where he's writing this book, and we'd sit there and, I learned a lot about Northport, and we just went over it, and he really wanted to really soak in all of the stuff, and it was hard because, frankly, there's a lot of parts about Northport, for example, the earlier ancient stuff from Warm Mineral Springs and all, which I'll absolutely guarantee you I'm not an expert on. But he really tried to get that information and that. And, so anyway, we're sorry that he passed away, and we thank him for all he did. And he's got a wonderful wife who was really there and put up a lot of stuff for him to write that book. A lot of time went into it.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. We're in 2008. We're going to move forward. And what we're going to move forward, our first charter school, Imagine. Okay, for the first time, Northport has a charter school, and some people thought that wouldn't last, but boy, it has, and it's grown and grown and grown, and now we have a middle and what they call the upper school, so grades 1 through 5, and that was on Innovation Avenue on Toledo Blade, and it's been an important part of our community, and we're very grateful that we've had Imagine School, so thank you. The Business and Economic Development Advisory Board was set up. And basically, what did this mean? This means that Northport's growing. Northport's becoming a big person. Northport is going to need advisors into development, not hodgepodge. Let's put something here, let's put something there, but to have something more developed and more organized. So that was a big thing. Also in 2008, Fire Station 18 was built, and a big, who is it going to be named for? What's it going to be named? And all this stuff. And the winner was Michael Morales. And let me tell you something about Mike, because I knew him well. Okay. And here's a quote from Mike that really I've always gone with. Mike said, if somebody wants something or anything else, and he used to tell people, if they want, they come along and they want $10 from her, $20 from her, or a new TV from her, because he had a TV and radio station. His words were, they need that more than I do. Okay. And he'd give it up. There was never, ever, ever a time, because we had the daycare center and he provided a TV for our daycare center. I called him up wanting him to sponsor a team for Mighty Mites when we started that. That conversation lasted about 10 seconds before he said yes. There was never a time that Mike did not say yes to helping out and doing something for the community. So we also have right here in town, we have his son, Michael Morales, who still has Morales Quality TV. Okay. And we have his son, Chris, that everyone in Northport should know him. He's been on the police board and police department for a very, very long time and doing a lot for the community. So his family really needs to be thanked by all of us for what he did. Once upon a time, there was a girl that needed a home, and the Moraleses immediately took her in. Unfortunately, as much as they fought, they weren't able to keep her forever. That's due to some of the rulings that shouldn't be. Let's think of what's best for the kid, not best for who has the most legal rights. Okay. But that's the kind of person he was right there. And we thank him for his dedication. And 2008, it was named for him. Sumter Park, Sumter Boulevard, Linear Park, along Sumter many people don't really consider that like a park, because it's just along Sumter. But isn't it a beautiful area? You come in and out of Northport, and here's the beauty of Northport, okay? It is not just strip malls. You come in out of I-75 down Sumter, and it's beautiful. Okay, you come in a Toledo Blade, and there's a lot of beauty there. There was some thought behind it, and it wasn't just how can we do the most commercial. So that was a very important part. The beautification of Sumter meant a lot to a lot of us. It really did a lot for our city, so we thank them for that. Also in 2008, busy year, Siegfried Pertamersing, Ziggy we used to call him, but Pertamersing was such a great guy. He made soccer. He was the father of soccer. And finally, we have a place that we're officially dedicating to him. There needs to be a bigger monument. There needs to be bigger things. But if you go into Bill Butler Park and the Fronton Park, the multi-purpose fields now, and are used for soccer. And next to really the restrooms, there's a stone dedicated to Siegfried Pertamersing, Ziggy as we called him. He made everyone a soccer player. And he brought soccer to this area. I mean, truly, there was only baseball, okay? And he made soccer happen, and then there was football. And I know if you're in England, you'd call soccer football and all this stuff. But on the other hand, there is a very big distinction here. And, I was talking to his daughter, Joy Luce, and she was saying she remembers her dad lifting her up on his shoulders, and she would hit in the nails to put on the nets for the soccer goals and all of this kind of stuff. And then, unfortunately, some people at City Hall who really didn't appreciate kids, we've said that before, but anyway, would have them knocked down. And instead of being angry, instead of being nasty about it, oh yes, they were told to knock them down. Okay. All right. And this was city people. All right. Anyway, instead of that being something negative, Ziggy never had a negative bone in his body. Okay. Really a great guy. And sadly, we lost him early. He had a heart condition that all of a sudden he wasn't feeling good, went to the hospital, and he was gone a few days later. And the doctor said basically his heart disintegrated. He just really didn't have a heart to put back together. And it was so sad. And there are many, and I will talk about June of 2021. And his grandson graduates from high school, and they had a family gathering at the Morgan Center. So just a few weeks ago. And let me tell you something, a big picture of Ziggy there. And the talk was of this man and what he's done, and really to show the people under him and to appreciate what he's done. So, these are the giants. And I don't want just to be a couple words on a piece of paper. These are the giants. So thank you, the Pertamersing and that whole thing. Family had Springs TV. That used to be up there, and they did a lot for the family. His father-in-law, Marty Sharp was built some of the first houses in Northport. Okay, and they were very much part of First Baptist Church, the first church in Northport. So a lot of history connected to Northport. Zumo Solmuro, she was honored as Director of Social Services. Did a lot to really. Zuma was really very well liked, appreciated, and did a lot to really emphasize what was needed for social services in Northport, because we really didn't have a lot. You have this new community and you don't have a lot of social services going for you. So she brought a lot. And now we are lucky to have Janet Cirillo, who is now kind of like taking over that position and really bringing it forth and being there for a lot of people. If you need help with social services, okay, we have people willing to help you. Please contact them and please see what they can do to offer you. They can't do everything they want to do. Obviously, they don't have enough money to do that, but they are there and they have a lot of information, and they are very willing to help you. So right over on right now on Pan America, okay, right by the William Churchill Educational Building, the social service buildings in there. Go in there and see what information you can get. Okay, phase 2 of Sumter widening happened. You know, this was a long time coming, and this was not easy to do. Okay, when I think of that, and then I think of what's going to be the future, what we're going to be talking about a couple of years from now, and that's the widening of price, and that's even going to be harder. But this was a lot of work, and you know, this took a lot of time to do. But look at the beauty. We just drive down it now and take it for granted that it's always been this nice. It hasn't been. All right, so we had to have some people with vision doing this. January 17th, 2008 will always go down as one of the most tragic days in Northport because we got the news of the kidnapping and murder of Denise Amber Lee. If you weren't in Northport at this time, you might not know much about this case, but if you did live in Northport, believe me, it took us all down. Beautiful young mother with 2 beautiful little kids, is kidnapped from her home, is brutally raped and murdered. Unfortunately, now this was 2008, and now we're in 2021, and her killer still sits in Stark on death row. You know, what he did to this family, what he did to this community. A lot of things happened from this. Okay, one of the things that happened from this is a lot of laws about first responders, a lot of laws about our whole system, and taking calls and knowing what to do with them. Because Denise's father had worked for the Charlotte County Sheriff's Department for 20 some years, very, very well known. What happened to her, to protect her children, she left her babies home in a crib, and she was forced by gunpoint to go with this man. And she didn't want to, but at least she saved her kids. And God bless her what she did. For anyone being kidnapped, this woman did it all. She pulled out, because her father was a detective and she knew, she got her wedding ring off in the back of the car where she was bound and left it in the car. She pulled out some of her hair and put it in the car so they would be able to know that she was there. She somehow tricked her kidnapper, Michael King, into having his phone on, and she's calling out for help, okay? And letting people know that she needs help, and actually that her kids were home alone, trying to get help any way she could. She fought, she did everything, and now that is a model for new laws, the Denise law, new laws that for dispatchers, okay? And I hate to say it, because Denise did it all, and the dispatchers in Port Charlotte blew it all. She was on that phone. Then people from Northport called in, and they dismissed it. A woman who I've met with, because I was at the trial a lot for this, and she followed the car for 9 minutes that Michael King was taking Denise in, because she saw this woman in the back. She thought it was a kid having a tantrum and screaming her head off and banging on the windows and doing every single thing she could. And she even said to this dispatcher, "Should I smash into this car?" She knew there was something wrong. She stayed on it for 9 minutes, and there were 3 policemen in that area, and they did not get the word. They could have stopped. They could have found Michael King. They might have been able to save her life. But dispatchers and laws about dispatchers and what they need to do and the training they need. I'm not going against all dispatchers and saying they were horrible. I am saying that the dispatchers needed more training. And her husband, Nathan Lee, and groups have been working since this tragedy in 2008 to improve the laws, to get more training for dispatchers. Okay, and I know I'm going on about it, but you have it in here.
And I brought up some of the facts in her case. Not only that, her husband came home. He tried calling her 8 times or more
Yes.
on his 25-minute ride home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and came home and found the kids, they're alone, and he got a hold of her. They even, in a half hour, they had police dogs and helicopters canvassing for her. At 6:14 p.m., a second call was placed to 911. It was Denise herself, while pretending to have a conversation with her kidnapper. Denise relayed as much information as she could to the 911 operator, including her name, the street she lived on, the color and make of her kidnapper's vehicle, and the fact that he was a stranger to her. Denise pleaded with her kidnapper to let her go. She talked about her babies and how badly she wanted to see her family. Denise used the word please 17 times when begging her captor to release her. 7 minutes into the call, Denise's kidnapper realized his phone was missing, and suddenly the line went dead. And since the kidnapper's phone was a burner, the authorities were not able to trace it. They were, however, able to find out who it belonged to, Michael Lee King. Now, just to tell you, she did everything.
She did everything. She did more than any of us would. So if there's something that every single one, pulling out your hair, taking off your wedding ring, getting a hold of the captor's phone and making this heroic call, doing everything she could. She wanted people to know her kids were home alone. She was so worried about them. And her husband immediately went, because he knew there's no way Denise would leave these kids home alone, and her purse and all this kind of stuff. He immediately went, and Goff, her father, who worked for the Charlotte County Sheriff's Department and all, they immediately, Northport put all these bolos out about this and all. And unfortunately, and there's lawsuits against it and all this kind of stuff happened. They did not adhere. They did not listen. They did not do what they should have done, because, as I say, there were 3 policemen around the area where they eventually found her body, and that they might have been able to save her. This woman followed that car for 9 minutes. She saw from the side that there was something very, very, very wrong. God bless her. I'm Janet, can't remember her name. But anyway, for 9 minutes following a car, and this was getting into the darkness hours that something's wrong, and for you to follow a car for 9 minutes and do this, God bless her. And I know how much she has suffered, thinking, she should have smashed into the car, she should have whatever. But, she did everything. She did so much more than the rest of us would do. So there is so many examples of what should be done, and dispatchers and everyone else, they need, we really need to make sure. And another thing, and this is very, very important, okay, and this isn't anywhere in this, but I will tell you, dispatchers do not have the information, and they need it. For example, we have had situations at the Little League fields and things like that where a kid gets hurt, and you call in for an ambulance, you call in to get first aid, and the dispatcher is saying, where's that located? I mean, if you say Butler Field, you should immediately know. A dispatcher needs to be able to immediately plug that in and know. You can't expect a person to have a street address when there is this kind of stuff going on, but we truly need, to have more and more and more and better, because Denise Amber Lee did everything right. She showed us all. She showed me. I know that if I ever got kidnapped in that, because of Denise, I will work on some things. I will think of some things like she did. She thought every single moment, how can I save my life? How can I get to my kids?
I wanted to let people know that out of tragedy, sometimes things happen. And because of Denise's tragedy, there has been laws change. Also, her husband and family set up the Denise Amber Lee Foundation. I have it up on the screen here. And part of the thing that they do is training, class descriptions, instructors, webinars, guidelines. They have events scheduled. Be the Difference virtual conference, a full calendar, And uh, that's something that when you go so many times out of tragedy like this, we have laws that change things and things that do. But that family, those boys, you know, it's changed their lives,
Yeah.
so terribly all the way through things. And we've in fact, did we talk about earlier? I don't recall because I've done so many shows with other people too about the other kidnapping. um when it was the kidnapping was of uh, the the Mackle brothers, wasn't it? Mackle
Right,
brothers
right,
daughter.
right. Hmm.
And did that have anything to do with Northport, or was that just in
No,
Charlotte?
well, that was down in Port Charlotte, but there's
Yeah.
another example. I mean, there's another example, and whatever. And I'll tell you what, with Denise Amber Lee, uh, Ed and I felt very connected because we did not know Denise Amber Lee herself because we had retired from Lemon Bay before her, or her husband Nathan. But everyone, the Goff family, the Apathy family, the Curry family, a lot of the families in Northport were related to them. Okay, it was a bigger group, and we had them all at Lemon Bay. In fact, my husband had her father in school once upon a time. And some people that have been very involved, and we gotta. My heart goes out because I know personally some of us went to the trial every day that we could, but I have to say that Dave Dignam, who lives in Englewood, who was once upon a member of the school board, key agency, very involved there every single day at the trial, there every single day with Nathan Lee for decades, working on this really. Dave Garofalo was at the trial every single day. Vanessa Carasone was at that trial every single day. Everyone was totally involved with this. There was no question about it. We put a memorial service on in front of City Hall where all the commissioners were involved with it. South Biscayne Church came down and was part of it. And we had her teachers at Lemon Bay. I was able to get some of her former teachers at Lemon Bay. Kari Burgess was her English teacher, and really inspirational to Amber Lee, and that's the kind of person Kari was. And Mike Piercy, or Mark Piercy, was her political science, government teacher, history teacher, and they both came over here and spoke. And our hearts just went out to those little boys. Denise's mother and Nathan's mother went together and put together a cookbook, um, with her two boys featured, doing various kinds of cooking, pastry and all the stuff with the flour falling all over the place and at the beach scenes. And what cute little boys. And now this is 13 years later. And I don't care who likes this or doesn't like it. Those boys are growing up in high school and all this stuff. And the murderer of their mother still sits in prison. You know, that's not easy to take for any of them.
No, no, I did not realize she was a Goth. And when you said that, and when I saw who her dad was, because the Goth was the first family over in Englewood.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, so she's of the Goth family.
Very, very
Yeah.
into
Oh,
the
I mean,
community.
yeah. 1800s is when
Yeah.
their family came here. So she was. Oh, wow.
Very connected to a number of people, were relatives of there at the school, because the family branched out and different names were combined. So, as I say, my husband and I did not have Nathan and Denise Amber Lee and our Goff in class, but we had other members of the family and certainly knew the family. And I'll tell you what, okay, we're diverging, but this is worth it. Showing the community and how hard it was. This all happened on January 17th, 2008, and we were going to have one of the Lamarck 5K races there. The Lamarck 5K race was going to start virtually across the street from where Michael King lived. Okay, and here we were. I went up there because at the time because where Denise and her husband lived were on the other side, going over by Ponce de Leon, Biscayne, and on the other side. Okay, but Michael King, that's where he lived, right across the street from Lamarck. And I went over there because all the water was supposed to be delivered that morning for the 5K and all this kind of stuff. And I remember, I got to the school, everything was fine. All right. Talked to her around, and then a teacher came up to me and said, "Do you know what's going on across the street?" And I go, "No." She showed me out the window, and there was the police taping all around Michael King's house because they got to that point. I left there and drove down Lamarck to get down to Sumter. By the time I got to Sumter, and that's how quick all of this set up, there were horses, police horses. There was a whole kind of like the whole command center was there. 20 minutes before that, nothing was there. But then by that time, they got the word of that. And we sat around the principal's office till 5 o'clock the night before that 5K, with the police department deciding if we could even have the 5K there after, I'm sitting there with, bushels of bananas in my house and all the, the bagels and all of this kind of stuff. And what are we going to do? We had a couple hundred people signed up and all this stuff. And they did not give us permission to have that until 5 o'clock the night before. And many people did not show up because of it and all. But by that time, they had done all the searching of his house. Okay, so therefore the police tapes were down and all this stuff by 5 o'clock that night, because there wasn't that much a search in the house, because there was no furniture or anything in the house. So there wasn't, it was easy, it was just kind of like a bare area inside. We were allowed to have it, but of course it wasn't the same. And during that event, we were getting word, because the runners were even running by police horses and everything else who were looking for Denise, who were looking for the gun, because, you got word back. They found her, they didn't find, and it was just awful. It was just awful. You talk about a community together in mourning, and it was a community together in mourning for this beautiful, beautiful woman. God bless her whole family. I love them. I appreciate them. I mourn for them. And they've gone on and done everything they can to honor her legacy and to be there. Nathan's been a phenomenal father to those boys. And now he is finally remarried after many, many years. But their world will never be the same.
No, absolutely not. And I'm sorry to our audience if we went down that path, but it's very important that a lot of people do know that this happened and the response to it and how laws were changed because of it. So, Joan, I know that we need to move on.
We need to move on. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
All right. We're going to go on with something positive. Okay. Well, the Northport post office opens up in City Center. The one closes down by Abby's Donuts. And the one opens up in City Center. But originally, that was supposed to be a lot bigger. That was supposed to be a larger post office and a distribution center. But as you know, budgets get cut and blah, blah, blah. I guess we were lucky to get what we got. That was a long time in the coming. And a lot of people were not happy that we didn't get the distribution center and everything. So let's move on. And we're going to move on with Home Depot. Not Home Depot, but Lowe's Home Improvement, which is going to open up in an area on Tamiami Trail, which used to be called the Watchtower. For those that were around long before when General Development was there, that was the General Development Welcoming Center into Northport. And I don't have a picture of it, but definitely that was one of the things that people saw when they came into Northport. Because where that was and anywhere down that way, that was considered the outer part of Northport. Inner Northport was like 3 square miles at one point. I mean, there was very small area, but it's reaching out, and that was important. So Lowe's came in, and then other big box stores came in, chain stores, Walmart, Home Depot, Applebee, ABC, Pizza Hut came to Northport. And here we got to go back to John Zagner Bellney and having the Mediterranean front, because Walmart was one of those stores that paid a lot more money. I understand $1.5 million more dollars for to make it the Mediterranean finish and making it the colors that we wanted for our town. So you know, you can't put any. It's hard to even thank the Zagner-Belny family and John Zagner-Belny, because truly his conviction, his strength, his courage, his commitment changed Northport forever. Okay. If it wasn't for him, we might be the strip mall capital of the world, you know, but he changed it. And now look, go down 41, go down Sumter, go down Toledo Blade, and say, Northport's beautiful. Okay. So anyway, we got the big box stores, and this is a huge change. You talk about it. All of a sudden we have people that can be employed. You know, we have the big stores, because basically until then, from 1972, when we moved here, to 2008, you want to go to a Walmart and that, you traveled. All right. You know, you didn't have the big stores. You know, we had Winn-Dixie. All right. And that was the only real food place that we had. And then we added on to Publix. All right. But on the other hand, to have a Home Depot, you know, Home Depot, and then quickly after that, Lowe's and Home Depot and all of them coming in, this truly changed. I mean, now I'm going to live in Northport because I can get employment here. You know, I don't know the numbers that got employed by all these stores, but, you know, a lot more employment, a lot more kids, a lot more families coming into the Northport area. The developer of Walmart, Frank Metkick, he was very important in trying to get the Northport Hospital. We've had a lot of people trying to get the Northport Hospital, and we're still trying, guys. Okay, so come along, give us your ideas, and make a hospital come here. We also had in the same year Woodland Middle School open. Now, let's go back just a little bit before Woodland. Toledo Blade, which was our second elementary school, opened. All right. Toledo Blade was so overrun and everything else that when we opened Woodland Middle School, because we made it big enough to last for a while, okay, then guess what we had to do? We had to put the portables, and we had to put the upper grades from Toledo Blade over in Woodland, okay, until we finally got Atwater School. So we could take the load off of Toledo Blade and all this stuff, which brings us to another thing, which we're still kind of like on the other side of Toledo Blade, was not considered once upon a time the biggest part of Northport. You know, it was kind of like on the other side of Toledo Blade, on the other side of Sumter. But on the other side of Toledo Blade, go look at that area, how big it is, how beautiful it is, how massive it is, how many people are there. But we need, you know, now I'm talking 2021. We need a community center over there. Okay. We need another big water park over there. You know, they need more activities over there, because those kids living in that part, if they wanted to be in summer rec, if they wanted to be in that, where do they have to come? They have to come over to the Morgan Center and the Mullen Center. Okay, because there's no big activity center there. Now we have Atwater Park, which is great, and we'll be talking about that pretty soon. So we have some baseball fields over there, but we still need, you know, big activity center, big areas for them to meet in. So really, on the other side of Toledo Blade, so much development, so much potential, you know, so much will be done in the future. That is certainly not a done area over there. Okay, MDA, we're going back to when we're talking about John Zagner-Belny, when we're talking about the Old World Restaurant, which has been around for 30 some years and is certainly a staple in Northport. Well, they had the MDA, multiple dystrophy walk, run, 5K, certainly a staple for Northport. They gave trophies to everyone, first, second, and third place. It was called the trophy race. And Christine and John Zagner-Belny did so much. They had, if those of you who are around, remember, we used to have the festival there too, right over by Old World, right next to it, which is now mostly parking area. And now they've built a animal clinic there. But at one point in time, that was a big festival. And this is one of the funny things. with the 5K race. One time, one of the goats got loose, and and, and the 5K race, the goat is running in through the finish line. Okay, he's following some of the runners, and this is the way to go. Okay, but that was definitely and as much as John Zagnarelli gave us the Mediterranean finishes, a nice restaurant for all of us to meet in, and has definitely been a meeting place for all sorts of groups in Northport. Well, they also raised over 1 million, close to $2 million, which they've given to multiple dystrophy. Jerry Lewis was be down here and all of this stuff. And you want to have something very sad. And this happened the other day in Old World Restaurant. We went with some from students that we're very proud of that are now going off into college and all this stuff. And we were talking to them, and they were saying as a kid, they remember running the MDA race. And this beautiful girl, she says, yeah, I remember we had a shirt and we had a picture of some man on it. I don't know who it was. Jerry Lewis. But they don't know Jerry Lewis.
No, they don't know because they don't use those telephones anymore.
And I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, I'm so old. How can anyone not know Jerry Lewis? But they said, yeah, there was a picture of some man on that shirt.
And for people to know that John did have muscular dystrophy.
He was an owner of a pharmacy up in New York City. He came down with it when he was early 40s. He built this restaurant here. What a vision. I mean, look at, we are talking Northport 30 some years ago. Does Old World Restaurant fit into the scheme that we had in Northport then? I mean, that was beyond anything we had. We didn't have a restaurant like that. I mean, we're still trying to get our first McDonald's, for Pete's sake. We didn't have anything. We had family table, thank you very much. And we had the Golden Dolphin at one point, but we had nothing like Old World, which its capacity and its willingness to have all sorts of groups in there. If you're dealing with wanting the boats on your yard, if you're dealing with a political party, any one of them, and they're after things, if you're dealing with a 25th anniversary, if you're dealing with retirement for Bud Corte, I mean, anything and everything has happened in Old World Restaurant. The meetings for recently for project graduation and all that stuff. For our alternative graduation in 2020. Okay. Old World Restaurant is always opening its doors, and there for it. Did a lot with San Pedro's Catholic Church. Very, very strong into helping them, and very strong in helping to the Boys Club, Girls Club. Okay. Very, 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 very much behind Boys Club and Girls Club, and Gene Matthews and all that they tried to do, and of course his daughter Debbie Snowden, and all that they've tried to do for, and so many others that they've tried to do for the Boys and Girls Clubs. So when you go into Old World Restaurant, go look at some of the pictures on the wall. There's history. Talking about history, and here's another assignment for everybody. I am understanding that the Florida Cancer Center that's going up in Northport would love to have some pictures of old-time Northport, and that to possibly put up inside the Cancer Institute to just show the community. And bingo, an assignment, okay? Because unfortunately, we didn't all take pictures back once upon a time. We knew what date it was, so no one needed to write it down. Okay, and we didn't have our cell phone cameras taking pictures every 5 minutes of everything. Okay, so therefore, if you have any, please let us know. There's people who want to have those pictures and really would like those pictures, and everything we're doing for this history board, everything we're going to be turning into the city of Northport to, so hopefully someday have an archive and all this kind of stuff. All right, those things have to be. We need pictures. We need anything. Just like this document, we need your information. This is not a completed document. Okay, I'm going on to Mr. Northport. Okay, Gene Matthews. And this is something, and I'm very proud of the fact that my husband and I wrote the proclamation for this and handed it over to City Hall. And basically, that's the one that was given to him. But Mr. Northport, there's some things in life that had to be done, and he had to be recognized. Okay, because what did he do? Okay, Sarasota School Board. He's the only person from Northport that has ever been on the Sarasota County School Board. Sarasota County Commission. He's the only person from Northport who's been on the Sarasota County Commission. He had a TV show, Northport Presents The View from Here. Business Person of the Year, 1993, Citizen of the Year, Volunteer Fireman, and actually the head of the fire department. Started one of the ones with him and the Smith family and a few others started the Northport News, okay? The Boys and Girls Club, okay? And so many other boards and everything else. Hey, every single one in their family should be named Mr. Northport. I mean, just phenomenal. And Lorraine, I mean, she was there at his side, working all the time. They worked in real estate. Now their son Steve works in at Allstate Insurance. But let me tell you something. He is certainly becoming a very strong, big person in Northport with the chamber and doing everything. And now Sharon, the daughter, Steve's wife, is now the head of the Penny for new things for Northport. Is an extra quality. Hey, we made it a whole year.
we made it a year.
Oh my gosh, I thought we were going to go much farther today, but no, I'm not sorry for anything we said.
No, absolutely. To our audience out there, our listening and our watching audience, in case our listening audience is going, okay, they're doing this visually, just go to our YouTube channel, WKDW 97.5 FM, and you can view us on screen if you want to actually see us, or you can go to KDW Radio Facebook page. And just for everybody out there to know, this is a work in progress. Joan and Ed have done a lot of research on this, and they've gotten, you've actually got this information out of old newspapers because Gene Matthews, we were just talking about Gene Matthews owned the first newspaper here, and he had how many? You guys went digging through all those.
We went through the newspapers, and I'll tell you, we're so afraid that we were going to rip them. And actually, we did put a few rips in them because they're so fragile. Okay. And it was so interesting to see. Now, a lot of this would not be on this document, but a lot of it was interesting. Who won the prize from the Alamanda Club for gardening? I mean, let me tell you, that was the prize of the month, you know? And I sent some pictures, made some copies of some pictures from the newspapers of all the kids in Little League, the first Little Leaguers and Girl Scouts, you know, and the Girl Scouts thing and all this kind of stuff. And some of the fights we had at City Hall, which believe me, were just unbelievable. But we fought over a lot of things. Then basically, if young people should have a right in our government, in our city, fights are different now, that's for sure, because the young people are certainly involved with it. But we still have a long way to go. And what I said about the pictures, and guess what? When we start again in 2009, we are going to be coming up to Atwater School opening and our bicentennial. Golly, we'll probably spend one whole hour on the bicentennial.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Joan, always a pleasure to have you on my show, and you co-host this with me on the series, Sleuthing Eye-Opening Tales of the Past. This is Marie LaBrasse and my co-host, Joan Morgan, coming to you from WKDW 97.5 FM, Real Community Radio, out of the city of Northport on the Bishop West Real Estate Tower. Thank you all. And
thank you.
Please remember to be kind. One kind gesture can change somebody's life. Be the difference. Be that person that is kind. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.